On that farm, as on any farm in the world, the young are born in the spring. The hen has chicks, the sheep has lambs, the cow has calves, and the duck has ducklings. The duck of this farm spent a long time brooding its eggs, and finally the day arrived. The eggs began to break and the ducklings came out, ungainly at first, but as the sun warmed them, their yellow feathers began to shine and they were all as beautiful as it can be. Suddenly, from one of the eggs a duckling came out that, far from being plump like its brothers and with yellow plumage, was more like ash, gray, and was also taller than the others and with a wide beak. Mama Patter and the ducklings were stunned by such an eyesore. "How ugly," said one of the ducklings. "It does not have the same color as us," said another. "It's nothing like us," said a third. Mama Duck looked at him with a watchful eye and feared that they had given her a cat for a hare. This means that perhaps while she was asleep someone had sneaked someone else's egg into her nest and she would have hatched it just like she had done with her ducklings. As she was not sure what could have happened, she went in a procession around the farm for all to see her brood. She in front and the ducklings, all yellowish and chubby behind, and at the end of all, our ugly duckling who, to make matters worse, did not even have the grace to walk of his little brothers, and worse still. While the ducklings answered to Mother Duck when she said quack, the ducklings answered quack and the ugly duckling cock. Immediately they told him to shut up, and very surreptitiously Mama Pat asked him to walk a little behind her. The ugly duckling did not understand what was happening. Why was he treated differently? The laying hen, round and surrounded by her chicks, greeted Mother Duck and her young, but as soon as she saw the ugly duckling, she let out a loud laugh that hid nothing. "Oh, ho 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 ho. Lady Paw, you have some very pretty ducklings, but not all of them, oh ho 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 ho." The cow that was quietly grazing with her calf also greeted Mama Duck, but as soon as she caught sight of the ugly duckling she mooed so loudly that everyone on the farm came to see what was going on. Moo! But what is this? The poor ugly duckling suddenly became everyone's laughingstock. But how little compassion do we sometimes have, right? Nobody thought about what the duckling felt. Everyone gave their opinion between laughs. "Lady Paw, but what have you done? Oops! But how ugly this one has turned out. Are you sure it's yours?" Nobody noticed the other ducklings, beautiful, yellow, chubby and precious. They only talked about the ugly duckling. And that was the first day. With the passing of days, far from accepting that this duckling was simply different. Neither more handsome nor uglier, neither taller nor shorter, neither fatter nor skinnier, it was just different. Well, instead of the farm animals accepting him as he was, after all. The ugly duckling couldn't change his appearance. What was his fault for being different from his brothers? They treated him worse every day, if they were when they went swimming. They all left without telling him. If they stayed to play, they excluded him unceremoniously. The duckling felt humiliated, abandoned, sad, and he thought, nobody loves me here. I'll go find a place where I can find someone who loves me even a little. Very sad, thinking that he had to get away from what he considered home, he took the path in the middle of the night and walked away from the farm. He came to a lake, and hearing some squawks he peeked through the reeds and discovered two beautiful white birds with huge necks. "Oh," said the duckling, "but what beautiful birds." He thought about approaching them, but fearing that they would despise him just like everyone else on the farm had done, he left the lake, away from everyone for fear of being rejected. The duckling wandered for several days, running away and away from everything and everyone. Do you see the damage that contempt and humiliation can cause in people's hearts? In that flight came autumn and then winter with its snow and gusts of cold wind. The duckling came shivering in front of a small house where an old woman lived with a cat and a chicken. When the old woman saw it, she thought that if she fattened it up, it could be a good pittance in a few weeks. Both the cat and the hen that lived in that house were very presumptuous, and since they only knew what was between those four walls, and since their knowledge of the world was very limited since they only talked to each other, they had the belief that everything they believed was the most absolute truth, which made them pedantic, and in most things lacking in reason. The duckling, who had known the world, at least much more world than the inhabitants of that small country house, limited himself to listening to those endless presumptuous conversation. That the cat and the hen was kept at all hours. If it is, thought the cat, you know, cats are preferred by our masters. In this house I have a primary role for my lady. She does not need to bathe me, nor clean my necessities, because I am neat enough to make her work in those things. Already, answered the hen, but, do you lay eggs? Every morning I have an egg in my nest for she for breakfast. No, of course not, but I scare away the mice. Since I've been in this house not one, dares to enter. They don't even show their snouts. And you? The hen asked the duckling. What can you offer the mistress of this house? I have already seen that nothing is clean, the cat told him. You don't even lay eggs, the hen hastened to say. The duckling was silent. He moved away to a corner and stayed there listening to the gatherings of cat and hen. Yes. Go to your corner. This stranger doesn't even know how to open his mouth, said the cat to the hen. He will think that he can replace me, she replied, if he doesn't know how to lay eggs. Between the two of them they made life impossible for him by considering him an intruder. They did not speak to him. They ignored him, and when the lady sat near the fire the cat climbed onto her lap and the hen clucked at her feet, preventing her from approaching to receive something darling. If he thought of doing it, the cat hissed at him and the hen pecked at him. The duckling held out as long as he could. They put food on him. He was warm and kept away from the snooty cat and the brooding hen, their petulant comments and boastful opinions of him. One fine day, leaning out the door, he saw a splendid sun shine and understood that the harsh winter was drawing to a close. In an oversight of cat, hen and old woman, he ran to the door and away from that place where he had been fed but not accepted. He wandered through the fields away from everything and everyone. He was tired of being ignored, insulted and offended for no reason. In his loneliness he thought about what right they all had to be so unpleasant with him. What did his duckling brothers think, plump and yellowish? They were all the same, no different from each other. What did the animals of that farm where he came into the world think, if they didn't know anything apart from the farm? There was a lot of world beyond. What did the cat and the hen think they didn't know anything about? They spoke with great certainty about his little kingdom. He had seen much more of the world than them. In his solitude, he thought and acted on everything that had happened to him in life. Why do we reject the stranger? Why do we push away the different? Why do we judge without knowing? Why do we offend without thinking about what our way of acting may hurt the other? In these thoughts he was going from one lake to another, from one path to another, and thus he saw the fields blossom, and the leaves and fruits appear on the trees. Without realizing it he grew and changed his plumage, keeping away from everyone. He could not know how different he was. One spring morning, approaching a lake, he observed the beautiful birds that had always caught his attention. They were so beautiful, they had such white clean and well-cared plumage and with those elegant curved necks. This time he decided to approach them. He was tired of running away. As he approached, he verified that those birds not only did not flee from his presence, but also approached and swam next to him. Amazed, he saw the reflection of his image in the water. He was one of those wonderful birds. It was not an ugly duckling, it was a swan. He had found his place in the world, his race brothers. That made him think a lot. He wasn't ugly. He was just different. Since then, the duckling, who at one point seemed ugly to everyone, lived happily accompanying his swan friends. He never laughed at the differences of other birds, never turned away from other animals even though they were different, and always accepted everyone for who they were. Something that may seem ugly at first becomes beautiful over time. Judging without knowing makes us treat others badly. The world is not only what we know, it is much broader, larger and more diverse.